and welcome back to another episode of The Book Stop. I'm your host Jen, and I'm very excited to talk about today's episode. But before we begin, there will be spoilers as we talk about major events that unfold within the story. In addition, each episode will have a list of trigger warnings in the description. Be sure to follow the podcast on Instagram at The Book Stop Podcast, and show your support on Patreon for early access to episodes and other additional content. And welcome back to another episode of The Book Stop, and we are back again with Katelyn. What book did you bring for us to talk about today?
So, we brought the second of the Kyoshi books, The Shadow of Kyoshi, and I can't wait to discuss this one. Definitely a lot better than the first, in my opinion. So,
all right, interesting. Yeah, so this was written by F.C.Y. in 2020. So right at the beginning of the pandemic, it was released. I wish I would have read this sooner. I waited a little long to read it, and now there's a third book out. The Dawn of...
Yang Chen?
Yang Chen.
Same with all the names in this. This second one with Kyoshi, these names were tough. I was glad to have the audio for help with that one. Those names were tough.
Yes, and I apologize right now that I'm probably going to mess up on some of the names of the pod. But yeah, let's hop right into it. We're going to play a little game. So you are going to summarize this book in 30 seconds. And just try as best as you can, and you can begin whenever you're ready.
Well, this is definitely about her past and moving forward, which is why I love it. It starts with Yoon in the spirit world, battling Father Glowworm. Mm-hmm. Some stuff happens, not going to say it all. And then we flash forward to see Kyoshi in one of the lower ring of Sing Se. And then stuff just starts to happen. She gets invited to the Fire Nation, learns about the political issues going on, clan problems, war, oh my, and some death and some sadness a little bit here, and then some happy times.
Yes.
And the ending is what you'd expect.
Yeah, what do you expect from me? Yeah, awesome. Great job. I'm going to summarize it really quick for anybody who hasn't heard of this story. Kyoshi's place as a true avatar has finally been cemented, but at a heavy cost. With her mentors gone, Kyoshi struggles to find the peace in a world full of corruption and violence. But while her reputation grows, a mysterious threat emerges from the spirit world. Kyoshi's travels takes her to the Fire Nation, where she reunites with Rangi and becomes the Fire Lord guest of honor for an important cultural holiday. But underneath the celebration lies a dangerous game of court politics, and when the palace itself is attacked, she must deliver justice before the Fire Nation is consumed by conflict. I am so excited. This book was too good, honestly. It shouldn't have been as good as it was, but it was. So what one in this one would you say is your favorite quote, and if you have many?
Okay, so my all-time favorite quote. This one also intertwines with my favorite character, so this is kind of a little bit of a forward, but it's Atuat. And it's when they're walking through the city. And it's where all the gambling and all the games happen. And they go with Heiran and they're all on their journey. And Atuat gets getting called to from everybody. Like, oh, Snow Queen, Water Queen, come play. And she's all like, I should be treated like royalty more often. And I just loved that quote because she brings such a subtle happiness to the book at its moments where you're stressed and you're like, oh my gosh, they're fleeing again. They're doing what happened in the first book. They have to leave. People are being assassinated and hunted down. And then Atuat's just like, yeah, I know, I'm royalty. Yeah, this fits me, doesn't it? It was just a good little joy moment right there where you're like, at least we have that comic relief.
Yeah, absolutely. She's the Sokka of the group, for sure.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I did not expect her to be as she was, I guess, because waterbenders have such a particular style to them, and she felt very different, and I really like that.
She did. She felt almost a mix of certain elements because when it came to her healing abilities, she was very almost structured and quick with her decisions to just write people off, almost like Fire Nation or Earthbenders would do, like, oh, no, they're done. Don't waste your time. We got to move on. You know, whereas Kyoshi's like, I thought you would be more helpful wanting to save everyone like a healer, a waterbender would be. And yeah, she's very interesting. I like her.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes, I have a few, and my top favorite one is Kyoshi saying this to the Fire Lord Zoru. She says, I care more about his life than yours right now. Let me make myself perfectly clear. You live on top of what I control. Your islands are surrounded by my waves. You fill your very lungs at my discretion. So if I hear any news about Yoon being executed, you will truly learn what it's like when the spirits forsake you in the face of the elements. Slay. So good. If you know anything about Avatar, you know that the Fire Lord, you don't talk that way to the Fire Lord. You don't even talk to the Fire Lord unless you are high up.
She's broken that often.
Oh, very much so. You know, the Fire Lord is young himself as well. It's just, it hits so hard, and I was like, this is an Avatar. Like, this is Kyoshi.
Yes. And that's more towards the end. And I have that written down too. And that's when he's doing the decoy, right? He's using the decoy. Yes. And she says that because he's like, you wouldn't dare. I'm the Fire Lord. I'm trying to save my country. And what's the life of one peasant to, you know, my whole country? And she's like, his life means way more to me than yours.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
you're just like, oh, girl.
Slay. Gosh, it was so good. I love that. Did you have another one?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm all about the funny ones in this one because the first one was such a serious book, and I picked out the funny quotes in this one, and we had talked about this one. It's when they're flying to the Fire Nation for the festival to go see the Fire Lord, and they're flying on Yin Yang. You know, he's leaning, he's doing his thing because he unfortunately doesn't have all of his legs. Yeah. And Kyoshi's sitting in the saddle, and she's realizing she's kind of leaning. She's like, hey, is he all right? And Jinpa just kind of holds the reins and straightens him out, and he's like, oh yeah, he's fine. He's just a distracted boy. He doesn't know what's going on, you know. That was a good quote. It was just a funny, all those little interjected funny moments just helped the story just kind of give it the relaxation with everything going on. It helped me through the book. There were some times I was in tears, so you know, it helped me through the book, those moments.
Yeah, absolutely. It adds a little bit of character and builds that relationship as well, and they're just like quick moments like that. And I love the detail of the sky bison missing that leg. Yeah, such a cool little detail to add in.
It is. That's something you wouldn't expect. It's almost kind of grotesque that he would throw something like that in. Like, oh, when, you know, he was a calf, he got attacked by a predator and lost a leg. And that's the last thing you want to imagine. This cute little baby bison running around, and then all of a sudden he's losing a limb, and you're like, oh my gosh. But he's a cute, distracted bison. He's good.
He's fine. My next quote is when Rangi and her mother and Kyoshi and everyone is going back. Kyoshi is watching Rangi interact with her mother, and she says, it wasn't the reaction Rangi was looking for, but Kyoshi swelled with a sudden happiness. She couldn't help it. Rangi, acting so completely, utterly normal, tugged on a rope connected directly to her heart. It always would. So cute! And it's just funny because Rangi's just sitting there complaining about her mom. Like, why is she here? She drives me insane. Kind of like a teenager with her mom. Kyoshi's just sitting there just wanting the best for Rangi, and it's so cute. I love it.
Their relationship in this book, I think, shows way more growth than the first book. Yes. And they're not my favorite relationship in the book because I feel like there's some really good dynamic ones in this one. They're definitely up there because they're always going to be, you know, attached to each other. But when Rangi is explaining to Kyoshi how different her days at the academy were. And Kyoshi thought it was this elegant, amazing time she had, and she graduated top of her class, and she assumed everybody just loved her. And Rangi was like, no, it was the worst years of my life. Yeah. Kyoshi's like, wow, how did I not know this about somebody that I am so connected and care about so much? That hit me hard too, because I was like, girl, pay attention. You need to pay attention a little more. She's putting up a front. She's trying to be strong.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good call to their relationship because it was very spur of the moment, I guess, and very sparked by passion. And they don't know each other that much.
They really don't. They've been on all of these adventures and all of these life-threatening moments together that has brought them closer and closer. But yeah, when you really think about it in the scope of things, they're really not like, it's not like they've sat down, you know, like me or you right now and like talked about their past and her school days and how she was bullied and things like that. Their relationship is a really good one, but there's so many dynamic ones in this book.
Do you have any other quotes?
There's one more. I think it's not really a quote, but I think it's Kyoshi when she's talking to her inside self after the attack in the castle, the Fire Nation. When Atua is going around and she's healing, Kyoshi witnesses her mastery at how she can lower body temperature and save people and make them be able to last longer until she can heal them properly. She's talking to herself and she's like, I wish I had that control, because she thinks about how she could have saved Lek before she had any of this abilities. She thought that she could do more, but she didn't have these abilities yet. And now, you know, she's sitting here watching Atuat save all these people, and it's just reminding her that she wasn't able to help back then, and she wants to do more. That was a good one to me. I was getting a little emotional. I was like, darn, you know, this really is all about her past continuing to come to her with every moment that happens. It always reminds her of where she's gone and where she's got to go, you know. And that was a tough one. That was a good one. Yeah.
It's a reminder that Kyoshi's only 17 in this book?
Yes, she's 17, I think, going to be 18. And then, Rangi, I believe, is around their same age. And I think Yoon is a couple years older, I believe.
Yeah, 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then everybody else, she always refers back. She's like, our party's all old people.
My last quote is with Nahita. And they say, no fire is ever the same fire. No avatar is ever the same person. You and the flame change with every moment, every generation. You are one flame and you are many. And I think this is something that Kyoshi needed to hear, because she was very much comparing herself, especially Kuruk, who was the most recent one, but all the avatars before her. She was unlucky enough to have to deal with all of the consequences that Kuruk left behind. And she was having such a hard time through the entire book of connecting with her avatars. So it made her feel even more kind of left out, like a misfit almost. I just really like this because, again, this is exactly what she needed to hear, to be like, you know, this is the heir of Kyoshi. You are yourself. Yes, you might be connected to all these past lives, but what you do now is going to be you in the future. So, I just love that quote.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like she puts herself down a lot. She really does.
Oh, yes.
She lets others' opinions of herself really put her in a different mind frame. And when she heard that, I really enjoyed that part too, where she's learning how to connect with Kuruk and talk to all the past avatars. And he explains, he's like, you know, you have to talk to him as much as you don't want to. You have to talk to him first to get to the other ones, so that you can learn that you are yourself, but you're also many else. And you have to learn the recession of that to understand that you can be yourself, but you're also all these other parts working together. And he even explained there's 3 different ways that I can help you connect to your past lives. We're lucky if you'd even get to any of them, you know? So don't put yourself down about it. Something everybody just thinks the avatar can do. This is something you need to learn and practice, and you can't just do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a good callback to, she's not the only one that has the hard times. Like with Aang, he connected with Roku pretty easily, but you barely ever see him talk to anybody else.
Exactly.
So
it's not until the very end does Aang have the practice and the knowledge and the discipline to be able to call forth all his different past lives. And even still, it's funny because I never noticed he does go back in recession. How Nyatha was like, you have to talk to Kuruk first before you can talk to Yang Chen, before you can talk to Sato. You got to do it the right way. You can't just skip them.
Who do I want to talk to today?
I'm going to call forth the one, I'm going to call forth the very first one. Let's go all the way back.
Go.
Yeah.
What are some things that you liked about this book?
The things that I liked about this book is it rolled a little faster. The first one was difficult on me for some reason. I felt like it was kind of slow, and not towards like the end did it really like pick up the murderous nature of things that were going to happen. And then you were like, okay, now the second one. And it definitely, it hit all the points. It introduced new characters. I really liked how they explained how the Fire Nation even began. I really liked the history on that. Just learning all the different clans. I wish I could quote the names, but I'm not gonna. I will destroy them. How Rangi explains what clan she's from and the island that she grew up at, and how they don't really have any resources, so that's why they're the best of teachers and fighters. And they're like, we don't have anything else, so we're the best. We got to be the best. I really just liked the history, just because when Aang is based, in his time, things are formed. The Fire Nation's coming to take everything over, but things are formed then. You have everything set, and he's just trying to keep it that way. This, I feel like things are still coming together. The Fire Nation is the Fire Nation, but some of the clans don't really want to be. So it's kind of cool to see that there's still war within the nations, even with them, their own people. And I also liked the talk more about spirits. I really like how back with the older avatars, that's why I'm really excited about Yang Chen, because I know there's going to be lots of spirits spirit stuff going on in that one just because of the end of this book and how they had their talk. I am really excited about the spirit stuff, how it just talks more about that. I feel like with Aang, he only dealt with that just to show a little significance here and there. This is more shaping the Avatar because she is half spirit, you know? So it's kind of shaping their connection with the spirits more. And I really like that about this book.
Absolutely. Yeah. You don't see it a ton in the first book. I think there's like maybe a mention or two, but not in depth as we get with this, especially with Kuruk's spirit hunting, which we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, that gets more in depth, which I'm excited. I hope there's you know what, whatever Yi gives me, it could be a tissue with, here's the next book on, and I would read it, okay?
Here's a picture of what I'm thinking about writing. I will take it.
I'll take anything, but a Kuruk book would be amazing.
It really would, just because the description of his fighting these spirits and knowing how it physically affects his body that much would be so cool to read about. To know how physically harmful it was for him doing all of these things to save everybody without them even knowing. And everybody just thought he was just lollygagging around, you know? And it's all like, no, man, I'm like dying over here.
Doing my job.
You know?
We get a ton of Kuruk in this one, towards the end especially. A little bit more. I would never say no.
Well, he's apparently super handsome, so, you know.
True. I loved how we hopped right into it. We picked right back up after the first book. There was no, kind of where they like restate everything going on that a lot of books do. No, we're just in it.
So if you don't remember, you better go back and read the last chapter of the last one, because you jump right back where Yoon is in the spirit world and he's dealing with exactly where we left off in the first one. Straight into the world of Kyoshi.
Yeah, and then we get that a little jump. I think it's a little bit less than a year, because she was 16 and now she's 17, so maybe a little bit more. But I really like that we still get to watch Kyoshi grow into herself, because we know Kyoshi from the shows, for example, as being very headstrong and stubborn. Justice is her thing. But Kyoshi, watching her from this perspective is just so cool. I love it so much. Like, watching her make mistakes is, like, bad to say, but it shapes her as she is. And we're going to talk about in a second, like, her age. Like, she lives 230 years. I just love that we get to see the beginning part of it.
That is true, because I always did wonder at what age she is when you get her callbacks in the OG, the OG Avatar. You can't ever place it. They don't ever really say, you know? And it is cool that we get her when she is first forming herself after being alive for so long, when she encounters Yoon and he has her like pinned up against the wall and they're fighting, and he sees like the cut on her neck, and you know, he's like, look at what this duty's doing to you. She's like, my scars are me. You know, they're making me who I am. And I can't even imagine in the next 200 years, well, she's gonna get more badass, so I'm sure nobody can even touch her. But you know, yeah, it's crazy to see her start in the beginning, how everything, it just changes in her life so quickly.
Yeah. I also really loved the history. There's so much history in this book, so much world building. I've watched Avatar and I've read the comics and I'm like so into the Avatar world, but going into this and learning something new was so awesome.
Yes.
And obviously the diving deep into the Fire Nation, learning about the history and the fire avatars, you know, the succession of the Fire Lords, like all of that. Oh my god, it was so amazing to learn. I know a lot of people don't like history and they're like, oh, let's just get to the fighting. And I'm very much character-based and history-based. Yes. So I think I got both.
You don't have a strong background to create your story with, it's just going to get bland. You're not going to have anything to really fall back on and explain and develop, you know? That's why, same thing, the history for me in this. Same with me. When I can learn something new about the Avatar world and the universe, I love that. When I realize that, wow, there's a lot of different clans in the Fire Nation and they really all don't like each other and they really want to kill each other. Like, and then to just understand that when Aang comes around, they're all one nation trying to take over the rest of them, you know? So
they really came together.
They really came together, you know? Just that build-up of the history. I loved it.
Love it. You did such a good job. Worked really closely with Michael DiMartino. Which just makes it even better because you know it's coming from the mind of Avatar. So I think personally he does a great job on it. I know a lot of people kind of give him hate for a lot of the stuff that he writes because the public view of it is just like people don't think that Yi gives Kyoshi the right mindset that everyone knows Kyoshi of in the show. But again, you have to remember, she's so young in this.
Exactly. That's irrelevant, because what you're introduced to in the OG Avatar is a older, more accepting of herself Kyoshi. Yes. What we're getting right now is the turmoil and everything that she's battling within herself and trying to move on from. I mean, she's got to kill one of her best friends. I mean, that she grew up with. This is not something lighthearted that, we just think we're gonna read about how she split the continents up and made Kyoshi Island. No, we learned that in the OG Avatar. We don't need to read about that. Yeah. That was what Aang learned about her. This is us getting to learn her as she began. I don't need to learn about when she was 100 years old. I know she established herself. And the nations, obviously, when she passed on and Roku became Avatar, he didn't seem to really have too many problems other than Sozin wanting to start a war. So to me, we don't really need to know that Kyoshi did a good job, because in the end, she did.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people just think that Yi put her a little too cutthroat, because I was reading some reviews on the book after I had read it, and people were just like, this isn't Kyoshi, she wouldn't do this, and it's like, she's young.
Yes, she would.
She would do these things. This is only 7% of her life. She's only been alive for 17 years. So...
And to top it off, she's only been the Avatar for what, maybe 3? Maybe like 2, that she's known of, that she's had to take on these extra responsibilities and things to do. And okay, think back when you were 17, 18 years old. I mean, come on now. We made the dumbest decisions, when somebody upset us, we got mad. We wanted to hurt them back. Just imagine everything that she was going through with all the power that she has, with everything that she can do, and wants to put people in their place, and nobody listens. Obviously, some people are gonna die. I don't know, you know? And even Aang refers to that. So I don't know why people are upset, because even when Aang calls forth Kyoshi and she says, I'll do anything for justice. You as the Avatar have to do anything to protect the world. He even goes, I shouldn't have asked Kyoshi. Yeah. Because he knew that she was going to say, kill the guy. These fans, no. They're just mad because she's one of the most cutthroat avatars. In our minds, we think that all avatars are supposed to be above that, but that's really an Air Nation type thing. Really think that all life is sacred and above everything, and you shouldn't do those things. She's an earthbender. She's got a completely different mindset, and even Yang Chen says that too. When Aang calls her forth, she goes, we're taught as the Avatar, we have to learn how to balance, and we have to get rid of our beliefs to do what's best for the world. And Aang is just like, well, dang, this really sucks.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they're getting all their panties in a bunch about.
So what are some things that you didn't like about this book?
Okay, what I didn't like. Towards the end, when they're fighting Yoon, Kurima and Mok join in on the fight. It would have been nice if he explained her plan. It was almost just like she showed up, she wanted to meet Yoon, and then all of a sudden she's got this backup battle plan. And everybody shows up, and it was cool. It was like an ambush, but would have been kind of nice to know, because all of a sudden it's just these characters from the other book are just showing up when they haven't been in the book the whole time. And you're like, where did they come from? Where were they chilling to where she got to them so quickly, to where they could get to her? Kind of thrown together, that fight, I felt like.
She said that she'd sent Rangi to go get them.
Okay, all right.
But there's no mention of it at all.
Yeah, it was just kind of like an ambush game plan, and I was like, okay, I mean, that's kind of cool, but it was just really random how they just showed up, and I was like, oh, that's cool, they're here, but how'd they get here? Because then they had to get Jinpa, and they had to get everything together. And then for them to show up right at the right time, it's Avatar Universe. I love that. But that one was a little bit, I was like, okay, I'll deal. That's fine.
I was definitely missing the Flying Opera Company. So when they showed up, I was like, slay, let's go. But yeah, absolutely. No, it definitely felt very one-sided, I guess.
Yes, it was a little rushed. It was kind of like, okay, well, we need to finish this up. We're here. We're going to get Yoon. Here's the plan. Okay, we all show up. But I would have liked a little more into that, because it sounded like time had passed, too. Kyoshi was learning from Atuat some more healing abilities and things like that. And to me, it was almost like there was a mini little time jump that we didn't really get a few weeks of, where she just showed up at Yokia again, and everybody was there to fight Yoon. And you're like, wait, how did this happen?
Yeah, it felt very rushed for literally the big fight of the book.
Yes.
Now that I'm thinking about it, the fight with Genju in the first book felt very fast too. So I guess it's kind of just his thing.
Yes, it's kind of his style. It's like the build up, and then here's the epic battle, and then it's like, yeah,
done.
I mean, it was a good battle. It was just that little part. I was kind of like, I wish I'd have known their game plan a little more. The names were a little hard for me, but that's a small dislike. The dislike between the Fire Nation nobles, I really feel like he played that really hard. I feel like they were all backstabbing little biatches. Like, I liked it, but I disliked it because it's almost, I feel like he wanted to make it more of like a family conflict, but then it intertwined with everything else, and it was like, okay, do you want the whole nation to be battling, or do you want like this to be more of a family conflict for the throne? Like, it was big and very political, so it was kind of hard for me to follow like who was mom and like everybody, but eventually I got it. But it was just a little bit tough for me to like kind of pull through and pick all the pieces together of like the family members and the pettiness that was going on, and I was like, okay.
You need one of those boards with the red bar.
You do.
Trying to connect everybody.
Really do, though, because you got the old Fire Lord and his wife, and then his mistress, and then the kids, and then the clans, and then these people, and you're like, okay, I don't. It was a dislike and a like.
I guess if you wanted to get like a plus side to it, it kind of plays into Kyoshi being a little confused because she doesn't know anything about the Fire Nation.
Yes.
So I'm sure it was kind of like for Kyoshi feeling that way, but also with the reader, you kind of want them to understand what you're talking about.
Truth, right? You don't want them in the same confused state that Kyoshi's in. You know, you still want me to be able to be like, oh, okay, like they're doing this because they're trying to get back at them for this, and Kyoshi can be confused, but I kind of needed to be like, got it, you know?
So some things that I didn't like, even though I absolutely adored the history, I think there's a lot of history dumps at one time. So you'll have like a beginning of a chapter, and the first page and a half, it's just all history, all at once. And like, that's fine if that's how you want to do it, but I prefer a little bit more stretched out maybe. So yeah, there was a lot of just history all put into one spot.
Gets a little hard to remember. I did like when they show all the tapestries of all the Fire Lords and the Fire Avatars, and like, but yeah, that was a lot of history that they were trying to like go through and explain what all these different, you know, symbols with all these clans mean, and this and this, and then I'm like, I'm never gonna remember all these names. The ones that are important, I'll remember, and they keep popping up. Then I'll know those are the ones that are important. He was throwing a lot of name drops at you, and you were like, do I gotta remember all these names, because this is a lot. Like,
yeah, absolutely. I also think that the secondary characters were lacking character development a little bit, and it left them a little bit flat. For example, the Fire Lord and his brother, they started out really good. We got a lot of character things about them, but then as it went on, I don't know, it just felt flat to me.
I mean, they explained towards the end what Zoryu wanted to do with his brother and their clan. Yeah, I can see that. They didn't ever really tie it up. They didn't ever have really like a final conversation with each other, knowing Zoryu knew that he completely blackmailed, that he made it all up. It was fake. So for him to not even have like a final conversation either, like a wrap up between them, I would have liked to see too. Some of the secondary characters, like they have their moments, but they don't grow as much as like the Flying Opera Academy in the first book. Like they were together the whole time, and they all developed together. Yeah.
And then the other thing I didn't like, I didn't really care about Yoon. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think he was as strong antagonist as Genju was in the first book. He was a great antagonist.
He was.
And he was very manipulative. He had sources and connections. Yoon was just kind of like a shadow in the dark, and I understood the point of him being the antagonist, and I understood Yoon's making all these decisions himself. It's not the spirit that's controlling him, and I was like, oh, that's a good twist, but I just didn't care for him as an antagonist. I felt like the end was kind of too easy. It was too easy to kill him, and I just think they could have put a little bit more into it.
Yeah.
Like him coming to the palace, attacking the palace, killing some people. Okay, Jinju killed thousands of people at once.
At one time, just buried them.
Yeah, so it's like, I guess comparing the antagonists weren't that great. And I think a little bit of the Fire Nation was supposed to be the antagonists too. So it kind of lost me in a little bit of that.
I agree. I was thinking that while I was reading, like, the beginning. I was like, I know Yoon is going to be the bad guy. I know this. But it sounds to me like he was trying to make the Fire Nation more of, like, the bad guys. Because Kyoshi was dealing with all of these uncaring, spoiled, selfish people she was doing all this stuff for, and it was mostly the Fire Nation, who all these diplomats and all these chancellors, and was kind of worse because they're fighting each other within, and the Fire Lord's kind of manipulating Kyoshi with duplicate Yoons, trying to, backstab his own family. Yeah, I can agree with you on that. Yoon is a difficult character because he's going through much, like, hatred. I honestly would have liked it if Father Glowworm kind of possessed him. He eats him. I thought maybe he would get some of that hatred and anger from the dark spirit, would pull out of him more, and I thought he might even explain that, but he was just like, oh nope, it's just Yoon being mad. And I'm like, okay, I guess he can be that mad, but maybe implement that he ate Father Glowworm, and Father Glowworm was a dark spirit who ate humans, so maybe that hatred is seeping through him and causing him to be even more angry.
It just pulled back on his character a lot, and we've developed that Yoon was such a good person, but again, it's from Kyoshi's eyes. Because in the first book, we didn't get any of, like, Yoon's perspective, It was just Kyoshi. So we got to learn Yoon from Kyoshi's perspective. Yeah. I don't know, maybe it's a little twist, because we're learning about Yoon from his own perspective?
That would be a cool side book. That would be a cool little spin-off. I mean, he was supposed to be the Avatar. I think one book on him wouldn't be so bad. Just to... Yeah, that's why I'm down. Write you a message. Just one book on Yoon. Just kind of like it would be like a middle book with Kyoshi. It'd be like the rise of her, a book on Yoon, and then this. It'd be like a little trio.
Kind of like Lion King 1.5.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so we've been talking a lot about his writing a lot, but I really enjoy his writing style. I think it's beautiful. It might be a little wordy here and there, but I think he gives just enough where you can visualize what's happening without it feeling like he's just trying to make a word count, because a lot of authors do that. But a lot of his writing, it deals with such dark topics, and that's why I really enjoy these books, because they don't sugarcoat it like the show does, which is obviously for kids, so I don't blame it.
I don't know. Korra was pretty up there.
True.
Korra was pretty up there.
I really enjoy his writing style. I haven't had a chance to read any of his other writings yet. I want to check him out.
He's very thorough to the point where it doesn't give me a headache.
Yes.
Like Game of Thrones, I can't. I tried, I have all the books and I read the first one and I was like, this is a tough one. It's so overly descriptive because it has to be. Makes it so hard for you as a reader, yes, to visualize, because it's almost like an overflow in your brain. You're trying to set the scene in your mind as you're reading everything with such description, and you're like, bro, can you just tell me where you're at? Give me a little description. Tell me the people and let's go. You know, and that's what he does here. I love it. When he wants to be descriptive about how the city looks, how it's run down, or how it's nicer, how the people are. That's quick enough for me to set the scene to where I can visualize them walking down this street or this alley, and then the fight breaks out. It's easier.
Good balance.
Yeah.
He is the Avatar of writing. Obviously, we read the first book, and we have the second one done now. I think the first book is very much of what Kyoshi could have been, and this is what is required of her, with her being in the Flying Opera Company. If she would have just ran away with them, I feel like this could have been her future. And then this one, we have very much the politics of being the Avatar, and yes, it might be a little boring here and there, but it's extremely vital. It's like the whole point of the Avatar. It's the whole reason that we have this series. I know a lot of people kind of complain about this book because of the plot and the characters being so politics driven, I guess. And I don't really like politics myself. I don't know. I think it was important to get through this stuff because we need to know what it did to Kyoshi as she grows up and becomes the Avatar. It's just interesting.
I mean, if you think about it, whoever's upset about the politics in this book, go watch Korra. I mean, it's hard to read about politics rather than watch it kind of play out like they did with Korra, but you have to remember, these are after Yang Chen, who was the Avatar that was looked upon for generations. Still, people pray to her for protection, and they don't even think about Korra. So it's almost like the people right now are dealing with all the politics of the world starting to grow itself. I mean, we only introduced to what Aang deals with the nations are kind of already established. Some stuff going on because of the war, but it sounded like to me everybody was doing okay. So the politics in this is just showing me that this is how the world is coming together when these avatars are trying to take care of these issues. And you need to know the background and you need to know the politics if there's going to be any conflict. I mean, without politics and backstabbing, do you even really have conflict? You have to throw in stuff like that. Korra did all the time. I feel like every season there was some new political thing that's happening that you're like, ugh, okay. And this was just only the second book. Not even all of it was politics. It just kept referencing it. This is happening because these people are mad because this is happening. I think people just it's hard for them to read.
Reading a book, you want to escape things like that. And with it being kind of centered around it, you have to also think, like, being an avatar isn't just bending all four elements. You have to be the balance of everything.
Yep.
The politics is part of being an avatar. Like, you have to put yourself into that. And she tries not to. She tries to get out of being the avatar and, like, get out of being in the politics, but always going to circle back to it. Everything she does, it hurts her reputation, which then pulls back into politics because no one's going to want her making decisions on their country if she doesn't know the country.
Yep.
Yes, it might be boring here and there to learn about the history, but I think it's vital and it's very, very important.
Yes.
Not only the series, but also the entire world itself, if you want to learn about it.
Just like how we're confused with all of the things happening in the Fire Nation with the clans and the families. Like, Kyoshi's confused. It's showing us, again, while we're reading it, she doesn't really have a grasp on politics. You know, this is something she's admitted to everybody that this isn't something she likes to deal with. So for us reading the politics, it's coming from Kyoshi's standpoint too, so we might be getting a little bit more frustrated reading it because she's frustrated dealing with all of it.
Absolutely. Who in this one would you say is your favorite character?
So my favorite character is Atuat. I like her for the small character that she is, because we were talking about how the secondary characters don't have big roles, which they don't really as opposed to the first one. But she's in it just enough with her mastery and just her little spite that she's got and her little snippiness. Like, she knows she's amazing. So she's like, don't talk to me. Like, no.
She knows her worth.
She does. I just love her mastery, though. I love learning new bending. That's my favorite.
Yes.
Like when Yoon did like the ink bending and he pulled all the earth out of the ink and the paintings were dissolving because he was pulling all the earth. And when Atuat was lowering their body temperatures and just lowering like everything in their body. I don't know if that's new, but to me, I was like, I don't feel like I've seen this happening yet. I don't think this has been referenced. I know it's a technique, but I don't think anybody's done it yet. So just knowing that she pretty much brought Heiron back from death.
Yeah.
I mean, her mastery of the element and just her wittiness, I thought it was a great character to have in the book. She puts people in their place, but she's also understanding, which is why I liked when Kyoshi noticed that she was passing over the dead soldiers and was just like showing no concern. Kyoshi was like, whoa, okay, maybe I misread her.
Yeah.
And she was like astonished that she was just writing off people's lives so easily. And I thought that was a great character trait of hers because it showed that she was ruthless with her mastery of the element and that she wanted to save people but knew that there was a limit.
Yeah.
I thought she was a great character just for her little subtlety, funny comments and quotes, and then just her ruthfulness just to get what needs to be done.
It was a good milestone for Kyoshi too to see that. It's like you can't save everyone.
Yep.
It's just not possible, even as probably the most powerful healer there right now.
Yep.
You just can't save everyone, and there is a limit of what you can do, whether that be your own personal limit or just fate's limit.
Yep.
Kyoshi not only learned healing, but a lot of life lessons from her too.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
And she definitely took that technique and used it in the end, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm between either Kyoshi or Rangi because I'm basic, but no, Kyoshi because she is my favorite avatar. Love Aang. He's great. I love Kurok. He's great. But Kyoshi is just my favorite. I just love her. I think she's both naive and lost, but she's also so strong and acts on her own accords. These books are like heaven sent. Like, I love them. We learned so much from her and the way that she views the world. Rangi really stepped up in this one. I really loved that she stepped into her role of being both the Avatar's bodyguard, but the Avatar's girlfriend.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because she's super emotional in this book.
Yes,
oh my,
yeah.
She's so emotional. And I like that because it shows that she is a normal teenage girl that's dealing with feelings. And, you know, her mom has this assassin, has Yoon after her, and Kyoshi's lying to her, and she's dealing with old school rivals, and she just loses it sometimes. And I really like that because in the first book she was so strict and just so stubborn, and you
Very
were like,
much her mom.
Yes, yeah. and her character opened up a lot in this book. I honestly loved when she yelled at Kyoshi about lying to her about her mom, and she called her Avatar Kyoshi, and Kyoshi was like, oh. She's like, I've never heard her call me that, you know, like that hurt, because she knows just how much she upset her, and she's just like, wow, I really effed up. Like,
it's like calling your significant other by their first and last name instead of by like a pet name.
Yep.
She felt very more of the Avatar's team instead of just being the bodyguard, and she just felt more human. She felt more emotional, as you had said, which is not a bad thing at all. I really liked her in this one. Yeah, so I just want to take a second here to shout out the Patreon subscribers. A huge shout out to Nick W., Ashley A., Bree P, and Lulu. I appreciate you guys following and supporting this podcast.
Thanks, guys.
It's super fun to do, and I absolutely adore doing it. And yeah, if you guys want to be a part of the Patreon's shout-outs, head over to Patreon and subscribe today.
And tell us what book to read next if you want.
Heck yeah, let's go. One common theme in most of the Avatar world is leaving so much on the young people's shoulders. We see it a lot with the original Aang Gang, where he's literally a 12-year-old boy.
Saving the world.
And Kyoshi being so young. And Korra, too, when she finds out as an actual baby that she is the Avatar. It's crazy to see the outcomes that everything happens because they're children. They don't have the mindset to understand fully of what their actions do. And it's just interesting to see them kind of work through it and figure it out. And me being an adult, I see something and I'm like, oh, let's do it this way because it's the most sensible reason. And they react on mostly emotions and they just go, let's just do this because it's the easiest option. You see that a lot in this book because the Fire Lord is young himself. The Avatar is young herself. And it's just cool seeing both dynamics of both people in such high position of power being so young.
I think it's kind of weird. I like, honestly, because now that you bring it up and I think about it, like, it's like the whole world relies on these young kids to do all of these things, and when they do one thing wrong or upset somebody, it just blows up. All these adults are just like, oh, how dare you? And it's just like, well, then you fix your own problem. You know, I'm an 18-year-old, you know, Avatar not even, and they didn't even discover me until 2 years ago, and you're gonna blame me for everything. I'm 18, you know, but you want me to do no wrong. I understand that maybe telling the Avatar when they find out, like, oh, that you're the Avatar, but they put so much on, like, the training and the discipline, and it's like, I've thought about it, and I'm like, nowadays, if you were to put that much on a kid, like, that stress, you know, no wonder why Aang ran away.
Yeah.
The more that I watch it and the more that I see all the pressure put on them, it's just like, no wonder why they all flee and they all try to escape a certain way, because everybody's putting all their problems on them and they're still so young and they're just supposed to just, oh, I got this. That's tough.
Yeah, and the first thing they want to do is react with that power, so then it makes more problems. Fire Lord, him being so young and his brother pushing for the throne as well, his older brother pushing for the throne, obviously people are going to go with the older brother because he has more experience and understands more, but Zoru, he has the actual claim to the throne.
He's the actual heir. I mean, unfortunately to his, you know, mistress, no offense to her, but that's the ways of succession. You know, he didn't marry you just because you had a child out of wedlock. I mean, if we want to talk about it, we can talk Westeros terms, and he's a, you know, he's not no heir to anything. So that's just pettiness. That's the Game of Thrones right there.
Yeah.
You
he
know?
should be shocked that he didn't get murdered.
Exactly. He should be bowing down to Kyoshi right now saying, thank you for sparing my life after I tried to just dethrone my brother and take the throne from him, and he wanted to execute me, but you made him spare my life. He should be begging.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's hard to watch these children, literal children, go through these things and being like, I wouldn't even know what to do in that situation. And they have to make calls like right then and there.
Yep.
Literally life and death situations for large colonies in the continent, in the world. I don't know how they do it, and I give them perks.
I mean, in the one night after the attack, the castle, and Kyoshi goes to pretty much imprison brother on her little house that's got all the poop on it, you know?
Yeah.
In that one night when she found out that they had nothing to do with it, the Fire Lord found a duplicate Yoon, set up this explicit plan all in the course of one night when Kyoshi was laying there and couldn't sleep. And she was like, uh-oh, what's going to happen tomorrow? And the Fire Lord already had this whole plan devised to do all this, and he had like a day to do it.
Luckily he had help with all of his advisors, but still, it's crazy. But good content. Yeah, so as we had said earlier, Kyoshi living confirmed 230 years because they confirmed it in the prequel comics about Zuko.
Okay.
They confirmed that she lives 230 years. I just want to know more. I want to know, like, when she died, like, there was just so much that could have been done in that time frame. She's the longest living Avatar. There's just so much. Did she live and did she just hide for a little while? Like, I feel sad though because she had to watch Rangi get old and die, and that's sad. But a lot of theories is that she got immortality from Laogi. So I would love to see maybe if they do a third book, maybe we get to see a hint of that.
Yeah,
I would love a time skip in the third book though. Maybe not do 1819, do like 30s or 40s.
Right. I would like to see that too. And honestly, Laogi, I don't feel like there's enough on him. I would love to have more of them meeting up again. And like, that is true, the immortality thing. Because he's supposed to be thousands of years old, you know? So that's very possible. I didn't think about that. Wow.
Yeah, he had to have been here when the first Avatar came around, or at least around there.
Wan.
Yeah.
Avatar Wan.
A book about Laogi. Hold on a second.
We got all these side shoots going on.
He's a great character as well, but yeah, I wonder if he like stayed. It makes me think because I'm like, she lived for so long, and I want to know what else she's done because there's just so much out there, and there's so much lore that could be based around it. You know what? She deserves it. She deserves living that long because
she deserves to live that long for everything she's gone through. These people have to deal with her for 200 years,
230 years. So, who would you say in this one is your favorite relationship?
Honestly, I like Kyoshi and Heiran. I really like their relationship. I like that Heiran knows that Kyoshi cares so much about her daughter. Kyoshi's like, she's not gonna come back. She's not gonna come back. And Heiran's like, yes, she is. She's my daughter. She's coming back. Like, just give her a week to cool off. I like their relationship. It's almost mother and daughterly. Kyoshi would do anything for Rangi's mom. I mean, the fact that Heiran comes to her and is like, I can't tell anybody this but you. I'm gonna sacrifice myself for us to get Yoon. Her anger at Kyoshi when Kyoshi doesn't do it and ends up trying to save her. And she's just looking at her like, don't do it. You go get him. Because she's already at that point, I feel like she's lost her honor. She's trying to do right with everything she's done wrong. And Kyoshi's like, no, man, like, you're like my mom. And I can't let my girlfriend lose her mom. I can't lose you as my mom figure. I love their relationship.
Yeah, there's a part in the book, Heiran literally says, like, you're one of my daughters now. You're with Rangi, you are going to be one of my daughters. Yeah. So, God, it's so good. And then when she took off her top knot,
I know. That was a tough one. I thought she was going to kill herself. Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, is this for real happening? Like,
I was like, let's calm down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one. I have two. I thought the Heiran and Atwa were very cute together.
They are.
Very much like either sister or like best friend vibes. I think it would have been so cute to see a little bit of their relationship as it built. It's going to be a painful process, and Atwa had to be there the entire time. You see things together and you form a bond.
Yes, absolutely.
So, I really like their relationship. It was very much like big sister, little sister. Atwa would go get in trouble and do something, and Heiran would be like, oh, God, I gotta go get her. Hold on a second.
I gotta go get her. She's drinking. And then Heiran wants to go on this giant trip or stay up for the party, and she's like, as one of my patients arguing with me, I don't know, must have been the wind, you know? And you're just like, oh my gosh, they're so great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But my actual, like, favorite relationship is Kyoshi with her fans.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like.
Yeah. Obviously, her fans are signature. Those are Kyoshi.
Mm-hmm.
Just with the red and white paint and the headdress and the dress, everything is Kyoshi. But this is, like, her pinpoint of not only to her family, but her powers as well.
Mm-hmm.
They are the symbol of Kyoshi. And it makes her unique. I think it kind of draws her from the other avatars. And I think it makes her almost one of the most powerful avatars. Because she's got so much power in her. And she has to use the fans to kind of deflect that power and make her more accurate.
Because she doesn't want to let it out. She knows that if she doesn't direct it through that, like, she could end up doing something she can't control. Thinking about everything else. She's like, I can't not use these because I don't want to endanger anybody else with my power. Like, that just says to me that she is so compassionate and still caring about everybody else around her, even though she puts herself down so much.
In this one, you really see her connection grow. In the first one, she didn't really understand them, and Huang taught her how to use them. But in this one, you just see the connection grow even more. You can see how much she relies on them. And I love that you get a little bit of insight with Jessa, her mom, through the fans. I wish there was a little bit more, but maybe we'll get another book and have a little bit more detail into that. Yeah, so kind of talking about Rangi and Kyoshi again, I really like that relationship. I think it felt more real now than it did on the run, because a lot of that was pulled from just raw emotion. Well, this one, there was a lot of things I had to keep in mind. Like, their reputation was impacted if something were to happen. And now they're connected. And they have to hide it a little bit because it's not as usual there. But there was that real final fear of, like, losing each other that you felt in this one. I think that was just really cool to see that growth into it. And if we do get another one, I'm just scared a little bit of what could happen. I think it was more developed in this one for sure.
It most definitely was. I think their separation too, for as long as they were separated, was what really pulled them together when they finally saw each other, because it was almost like Kyoshi had lost so much of herself when the Flying Opera Academy left, and then Rangi had to go with her mom to the water tribe, the Northern Water Tribe, and when she finally got reunited with her, it was almost like, wow, where has this part of me been this whole time? The emotional Rangi in this book actually really started showing Kyoshi that it's like, no, like, you need to start treating me like we're an item. Like, I will always protect you, but there are limits to you hurting me. You lied to me, you hurt me. You know, like, I thought we were more to each other than that. So yeah, they develop very much so like an actual serious relationship, and I love it.
Yeah, so cute. So we talked about Keurig a lot, and his spirit hunting that we kind of figure out a little bit towards the end of the book, and how it kind of slips in a little bit that it was Yang Shen's fault. With spirit and the Avatar, they are the bridge between human and spirit. How do you think that Keurik's hunting of the spirits kind of affected the other avatars after him?
I think it gave them a more disconnect with the spirits. Even when at the end of the book, when she goes and meets Yang Chen, when she has her meeting with her, and that fox, that spirit fox, leads her, she's not even really aware that it's a spirit. She kind of is like, this is a weird creature, you know, what's going on? But I feel like because Kuruk did what he did and was such Kyoshi even notices it when she's with him in the spirit world. She's like, where are all the animals? Where are all the creatures that, you know, Kelsang told me that would be here? And he's like, oh, they keep their distance from me. So to me, I think it put a very big rift with the Avatar and the actual spirits. Obviously within themselves, with Rava, like on the inside, the Avatar will always be able to connect with Rava, but the other spirits, you can kind of tell even Aang has a hard time getting the spirits to listen to him. He has to like really meditate and like figure out what's going on, because they don't want to talk to him. They don't want to communicate with any of the avatars, probably because the Avatar's been such a not a very nice person to them lately, you know? So I feel like Kuruk kind of put a very big disconnect with the Avatar in that sense, with the bridge there.
I think it kind of pulls into Kyoshi and Aang a little bit, with the avatars slipping into the human world and becoming these evil spirits, which just adds more work for them because they have to now deal with both of the worlds even more than they did before. You kind of forget about the spirit aspect because they're so involved with the human world that you kind of have to remind yourself as they do that they're both. They're both spirit and human. I really hope that we get to see, if there's another one, that we get to see a little bit more of the spirit world in that aspect of. Yeah. Because now she finally connects with Kuruk. Now I want to see what it means to connect.
Yeah. That was kind of tough for me, honestly. I thought it was awesome to read about Kuruk because you just don't get to know a lot about him. He's just like the elusive avatar that didn't live very long, And it's like, when you find all that out, you're like, holy crap, he was like sacrificing himself to make sure that these evil dark spirits didn't break through, and he traveled the spirit world for days on end just to make sure that the humans were safe from them coming loose, because find out Yang Chen wasn't very nice to them and was just kind of letting the humans do everything they wanted and pushing the spirits back. And now it's like, when she's talking to Yang Chen, she starts to say something like, Kuruk didn't do a lot, and she stops. And Yang Chen kind of looks at her and she's like, yeah, no, he took care of what I left him. So he did a lot, but it doesn't look like he did because he was in the spirit world the whole time, dealing with aspects that me as an air nomad should have probably been a little more attentive to.
To go back to what you're saying, he not only sacrificed himself, but he sacrificed his relationship and
did.
His reputation. So, yeah, I think Kuruk definitely got the short end of the stick.
Did. He really did. Because everybody just talked so ill about him, that because he just wasn't around for so long, and he was always just off drinking and partying, and they didn't know that he was dying on the inside from battling all these dark energies and spirit. Ease the pain, And now Kyoshi knows that, so I feel like it humbled her a lot more to know that about herself, that was what she did before her.
Yeah, she got to understand a little bit about her past and why those things happened. But yeah, do you want to play a little game?
Of course I do.
All right. I'm going to give you an avatar's name, and you're just going to tell me which one they were born into. So a lot of the avatars are born into the cycle, and whatever kingdom or that they're born into first is the first thing they have to learn, and then it moves on. So I'm just going to give you the name, and you just tell me which one they were born into. Let's just start out easy, and we'll go with Kyoshi.
Kyoshi. So she's Earth.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So okay. All right. I got the. Okay.
All right. Roku.
Fire.
Aang.
Aang is air.
Yeah.
Started it all. He didn't really, but it's so weird to think about. When you think of Avatar, I always think about Aang, and it's just like he's just a cog in so much else. It's just, you always think about the OG, but now when you keep learning about how many more, and it's just like, wow, he's not gonna be my favorite for too long.
Exactly. I was looking through all the avatars. There's so many. There's some that only lived about 20, and there's some that live 130, 230. I love those guys.
There's thousands of generations. They say in this book, Yang Chen's there's 1,000 generations before me. You could spend 1,000 years talking to all of us.
Korra.
Water.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Wang.
Yes, is that a trick question?
He's the very first
No,
avatar.
I know. Is that a trick question?
Mm-mm.
Was he fire?
Yep.
Okay, because he started with fire from the lion turtle. Okay, so fire. Yep. Okay. I was like, that's a trick question.
Kuruk.
Kuruk is water.
Yeah. Uru.
Earth.
Yep.
Okay. That one took me a minute. I was like, oh, I really had to pull that one out from somewhere.
And then Yang Chen.
Yang Chen is air.
Yeah. Yay!
All right.
What would you say, in your own opinion, if you were writing this book, what would you do differently or change?
You go first.
Okay. I would have put, in the beginning of the book, typical fantasy book, I would have put a map of the 4 nations. I think that would have helped, because there's just so many names of different places. I think it would have been cool to flip back and kind of look exactly where everything is.
That's actually, that's a good one.
Yeah, I think that would have been cool. I was shocked, honestly, that they didn't have that in there. And they could have, broken it up between each nation itself. I also said that in the back, I know this one would have been hard because I know it's not as solidified as the rest of it, but in the back, I would have liked a list of the previous avatars in succession of when they were born and how long they lived type deal. kind of like a Game of Thrones where they have all the houses. I think it would have been cool to have all the avatars in the back.
Just for reference is so nice because it's getting to the point now in the Avatar universe we are learning about so much and so many of them and the different nations and clans and avatars and past lives and all this stuff. And you're just like, okay, just to break it all down, that would have helped a lot. Yeah.
I also said that I would have explored Rangi and Kyoshi's relationship just a tiny bit more, in the sense that I would have broken them apart. Like, they would have broken up and eventually put their selves back together again, because it was just so fast. And like, I get it, that's kind of the point, is that they're supposed to be very emotional and reacting on that, but having an actual solidified breakup and be like, you know, we are not the same people, like, we are not compatible. And then having Kyoshi be like, oh god, I just lost her. Right. Maybe have to win her back a little bit. I don't know, something.
Definitely, because at the very end, like, it didn't seem that they were broken up for very long. Because seemed like when, you know, Kyoshi goes to meet Yoon, Rangi's there already. Decent talking with her already, to where she's like, okay, go get the rest of the Flying Opera Academy. Meet me here. We're going to have this plan. And then get stabbed and like tears. You know, I was like, oh my god, is this for real? When Yoon comes out and stabs her. And I'm just like, oh my god. To me, it would have been, a little bit more sad. I probably would have been crying if they were broken up for like half the book. Yeah. And Kyoshi does lie to her about Heiran being bait. And Rangi does leave her to go and do whatever she's got to do. And they're apart again for a good time. And then when they come back to fight together and then that happens, I'd be like, oh my god, they just got back together, you know? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I could see that. Yeah, because he also made her storm out multiple times throughout the book. So when she stormed out on Kyoshi, you were kind of like, okay, she's mad, but, you know, she'll probably come back.
Because there's a very distinct difference of being her bodyguard and being her girlfriend. And I think I would have just highlighted that a little bit more. And then I also said that I really would have liked more of Jinba's background of the White Lotus vibes, because that's what I'm picking up.
I picked that up too, how he had to be a different person, how they explained to him how he's to let Kyoshi decide her own decisions, but not really participate in any of the violence type deal, but let her do it. And I was like, yeah, White Lotus type of vibes. He's like, yeah, the people that I associate with. And you're like,
White Lotus? So I think it was hinting towards that, so I would have liked a little bit more background and more information with him, because it felt like he was very much a don't mind him, he's just over here hanging out.
Yeah, he gave me a lot of Iroh vibes.
And the last thing I said is I would immediately start writing the third book, because for all things that are holy, please be a third book. And I think it would be kind of cool, because we saw her in the Fire Nation and we saw her in the Earth Kingdom. It would have been awesome if we can see her in the Water Tribes. Yeah. And then it kind of completes the cycle a little bit. Yeah. Then maybe a fourth book, and she's at the Air Nomads. So yeah, I hope there's another book. I just need one more and then I'll be okay. Okay, I won't, but I would love one more.
There's definitely room for one more. There's so much room for one more. Just even how it ends. You know, just with the Fire Lord. And Lao Go just, you know, he's all like, she's watching you. Yeah, you know? You're like, that's kind of creepy. He's all like, she can't watch me forever. Oh, well, she's alive for 230 years, so I'm pretty sure she can.
She's got time.
She's got plenty of time. Yoon felt very secondary to me. I kind of wanted more of him popping up. I felt like he popped up so sparingly throughout the book that he was just, that background antagonist that you knew that they eventually had to fight off. But you were like, he only popped up a couple of times. I would have made him a little bit more, like, vengeful. Really hateful. Have Father Glowworm be a little bit more intertwined with him. Yes. It was such a weird fight between them, because Father Glowworm was explaining about how Kurik and him fought. Kurik couldn't defeat him, and then all of a sudden, so Yoon comes and defeats him and eats him, but then nothing happens, and then now he's just gone. So that spirit's just completely gone. I'd assume that his spirit was still within Yoon and was like making him do some of these things, just kind of playing on it a little more. Yeah. So I did feel like that was kind of a missed opportunity. He could have really used that dark spirit. Not to say that Yoon was possessed, but to kind of bring that element of it's bringing out his true feelings of how everybody hurt him and tossed him aside, and that's why he's so vengeful. Yeah, so that was I felt like Yoon could have been done a little bit better.
Yeah, he did fall a little flat.
He did to me.
So, Dawn of Yang-Chen isn't necessarily a sequel in any way. It's kind of more like a prequel.
Yeah.
But it is the next book in the line. So, what are some predictions that you have that might happen?
That we do get in a Yang-Chen and Kyoshi talk. Like how it ended in this book, how Kyoshi just runs to her and cries, thinking it's her mom, and, you know, they have such a good connection right off the bat, just because of how Yang-Chen is so compassionate, and I'm hoping almost that book might even start that way. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Just to start it, just to kind of be like, this is who she was, and then bring us into the start of her. Because that would be a good recap to remind us that she was that avatar that everybody wanted to talk to, and show just her compassionate, and start with, well, you don't know the full story, and then it starts into like her story, all the mistakes that she's maybe made with the spirits. That's what I'm hoping for in the Dawn of Yang-Chen, unless he's gonna do 2. If he's gonna do 2, then it might start off just like the first, like the Shadow of Kyoshi. It might start off how she's having a hard time with being the avatar, or it could go completely different. She could be like, I'm the avatar, let's do this. I want to see why everybody loves her so much. Exactly. That's really what I want to know. I want to know why she is considered to be the greatest avatar in everybody's eyes. Yeah. Like, what does she do?
Speaking of that, I just kind of realized that in Aang's era, we don't see Yang-Chens anywhere.
No.
So I'm curious to know if, like, maybe Kyoshi finally spoke up and was like, hey, this is what I learned from, you know, my past life, and I actually didn't do any of this. And this is all lies, you know?
Yeah.
But in the next book, I really hope to see more avatars in her past life. We can learn out more about the lineage of that. And maybe, find out that she wasn't as much of a saint that is preserved of her, and that she did a lot of very bad things. And I also am very curious of the connection with Jessa. Kyoshi's mother was an air nomad. And I want to know, because this is a while before Jessa has anything to appear in this, but maybe, like, Yang-Chen is her grandmother, or some kind of connection with Jessa in some way.
Right. That would be cool to know. That would be really cool.
So we're kind of closing out here, but before we go, we do one last thing. We do a rating scale, but we do a little bit different here on the Book Stop. We make up our own thing. So I would give The Shadow of Kyoshi by F.C. 8 hours of Rongi stuck on a flying bison with her mom and her girlfriend out of 10. It was so good. I think this one was a little bit shorter than the first book.
Yeah, I think Rise of Kyoshi is maybe 50 to 100 pages more. I feel like it is a little bigger.
I definitely think they could have added a little bit more into this book and develop out Yoon and the other secondary characters. I don't know. I don't think it really knocked down the story in any way. I just personally would have liked that a little bit more. But yeah, great book. Yi does a fantastic job, and if you love Avatar, there's no reason that you haven't read this book yet. You should have read it already. At least the first one.
Exactly.
So good. I love Kyoshi so much.
So my rate scale, I was going to also do an 8 scale of Joryu and Kyoshi frustration talking to each other because they're both so young and don't know how to communicate diplomatically correctly. A scale out of 10.
Perfect.
I really like this book just because it gave me everything that I wanted it to finish off on. I wanted to see Kyoshi go through the struggles of having to still murder a bunch of people she really doesn't want to do. Her inner struggles of finally learning that she can be different, and she's still everything in her past lives that she can be, but she's herself. She can't let other people tell her what she is. I really loved that not too many important people died. I'm happy that, I'm happy that the people that needed to be saved were saved. I loved it, and I want to read Yang-Chen.
Yeah. We don't have anything scheduled yet, but I'm sure we'll be back next year for Yang-Chen.
Of course.
I'm really excited to read it. I want to read it right now. I'm going to wait. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on to the Book Stop.
Absolutely. I love it. I'm always excited when you want me to come.
This is the book I wait for all year long. I love it so much. But yeah, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Sounds great. Can't wait. Bye.
Thank you for turning the pages with us today. If you've enjoyed this episode, show your support by leaving a review, sharing the episode, and following the podcast on Instagram at The Book Stop Podcast. Join us on Patreon for early access to episodes and other additional content. Thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Hope you are too.